Hey, welcome back to the kitchen. Today I am going to show you something that is better than sex. Cake. Yeah, you heard me. This is supposed to be better than sex, so let's see if it lives up to its reputation. TBK is really excited about this one. Come on. While our oven is preheating to 350 degrees for our cake mix, let's pre-spray our pans and get them out of the way. That gives me a little more room to work with. So in a nice sized bowl, I'm going to empty out the cake box contents. I have yellow cake mix recipes. However, I am trying to use up a lot of stores in my kitchen, and I happen to have this one on hand, so I'm going to use it up and get rid of what I already have because of life changes that are coming up. So use it or lose it. To this, we're going to add 1 cup of water, 1/3 cup of oil. I'm going to use avocado oil, and 3 large eggs. I have my compost bowl in the sink over here for my eggshells. Saves me from having to put them on the counter. All right, we're going to use a good whisk to mix this up. We're going to crush the egg yolks so it'll mix up easier, and then just start gently stirring from the middle, working your way to the out and scraping the sides. You want to go till most, if not all, of your lumps are gone. Now we can add it to our cake pans. I'm going to add this equally to our 2 cake pans. You can weigh it if you want to. I just eyeball it. Level it out if you need to. Now we're going to put these in our preheated oven, and we're going to bake them for 30 minutes. Because I'm doing an odd shaped pan as opposed to a round 9-inch pan, I'm going to go ahead and go 30 minutes. It says 28 on the box, but you want to bake them until they're completely done. While that is baking, I'm going to go ahead and prep some of our next ingredients. Let's start with our pudding. All right, I've washed my measuring cup and my whisk so I can reuse those for this step. To this box of mix, we're just gonna open it, pour it in our bowl, and add 2 cups of milk. I'm using whole milk, you use what you like. Use your whisk to stir the mix into the milk until it's well dissolved, and then you can refrigerate it until you're ready to use it. I'm using this immediately today. If I wasn't, I would go ahead and cover it, and it will keep in the fridge for several days. That looks beautiful right there, so I'm going to pop this in the fridge. Now that our pudding is done, I'm going to make our whipped cream. I'm going to be using my heavy whipped cream that I got from Azure Standard, and it's pretty thick, so I might need to water it down a little bit with some milk, but we'll see how it looks. I'm going to get a knife out and scrape that last little bit out. Call that good. To this, I'm going to add a little bit of powdered sugar. Probably about 1/4 cup, maybe 1/3 tops. Scrape that off. All right, I'm gonna use my hand mixer to get this all whipped up, and then we'll stick it in the fridge. Start slow to incorporate, and then get it up to high speed. For those of you who may not know, when you are whipping cream like this is the process that you do to make butter. Butter is whipped cream that has gone past whipped cream into the butter stage. It separates out the buttermilk from the butter itself, You don't want to get to that point. Where I'm at right now is what's called a soft peak. It's kind of keeping some waves in the cream, but it's not a stiff peak yet. Stiff peak, for the most part, is usually where you want to stop. And that's what I'll show you when we get there. But I wanted to let you know, for those who haven't made whipped cream from scratch, what it looks like. Let's keep going. We're getting really close. It's holding shape more, so we're almost there, but that you could stop there if you weren't comfortable because it's holding peak. All right, you see how it's leaving holes in the whipped cream there? I'm gonna stop there. That's what I'm looking for, because I'm gonna let this sit for a little bit. It's gonna kind of soften just a little bit over time. I'm still gonna use this really quick. It's not gonna last long in this household because there's 5 of us, but this is perfect. This is what you're looking for stiff peak. See how it's holding right in here? It's holding that peak. It's not softening back out. Soft peak kind of mellows out. Still holds a little bit of a shape, but it softens out. This is great. And I'm just gonna leave these in here until I'm ready to scoop this out later. Stick it in the fridge. All right, we are done for now. We're gonna sit down and take a little break while this finishes for the next 18 minutes roughly, and then we'll be back to pull out our cakes and let them cool, and then we will work on our fruits when it's time. See you in a little bit. All right, let's check on our cakes. Yeah, that looks really good. So we're gonna pull these out. We're gonna let them set for 10 minutes before we try to pull them out of the pans. Otherwise, they're just gonna come apart. So we're gonna let them set, cool off. You can kind of see these are doing really well. They've pulled away from the sides. We did a good amount of prep work on it, and they are baked well. We'll be back. Now that these have cooled for a little bit, we're gonna flip them onto my cooling racks and let them cool completely while we start dicing up some strawberries. Want to come out yet. Sometimes if you kind of go under and lift a little bit, it will help it to release. If not, I'll let it cool down a little bit more and try again. Just want to be careful so it doesn't break apart. Nope. All right. Yeah, see, it did that. But that's okay. We can work with that. So I'm gonna let this one cool for a little bit longer while we start on the strawberries, and then we'll get back to it and let it cool off too. All right, I've pre-washed these strawberries and had them air drying. I'm gonna pull them onto my cutting board. Pull out the paper towel I used to absorb the water, and then use this to take the stems off. If you don't have a stem tool, you can just use a paring knife to carefully scoop down and under, and it does the same thing. It just takes off a little bit more, as you can see, so you can get more fine-tuned with this. And they're really cheap. I got a 3-pack off of Amazon for I know less than 10 bucks. So if you don't need that many, you could always get some, you know, share with a sister or mom or whatever. This one's pretty white, so I'm gonna cut off a lot of that whiteness. Just not gonna have the same flavor and look. And these are gonna be on top of the cake and visible. Otherwise, I wouldn't necessarily care. All right, now that we've got those destemmed, I'm going to, you can do this a few different ways. You can make it a little bit more fancy. You can use a few whole strawberries if you wanted to, put them on the cake, different formations, or you can cut them in half and kind of lay them on the corners of the cake. You know, however you want to do it. You can do different form, you know, whatever you think looks pretty works on your cake. And I may do that since I'm doing a square one. Take some of these bigger strawberries and do that. And then what I'm going to do with the rest of them is I am going to dice them up and sprinkle them over the top of the cake. So to do that, I'm going to cut the strawberries in half so that I have a nice flat surface to work with. And then it just depends on what size chunk you want. You could go real small, which is what I'm going to do. You could just quarter them. But I'm going to go in thirds lengthwise. And then again this way. And that way I have really fine pieces. They're not too much for, you know, if you had smaller children that were going to eat these or whatever. They're nice to cut around. They'll look pretty, but they won't be too much. And if somebody wants extra strawberry, they can have the corners and have those bigger pieces. Having this prep work done before you're ready to decorate the cake really makes the assembly of it go really quick. It has a soft spot, so I'm going to cut that out and give that to the chickens. This one's really small, so I'm just doing quarters on it. Got that done, so I'm gonna stick these in the fridge while we're waiting, and then we'll finish up the bananas so they don't turn brown whenever we are right about to decorate the middle layer of the cake. Let's see if that second layer is ready to come out of the pan real quick. I went ahead and ran my spatula underneath it like I did the other one, but I left it to cool some more, so let's see if it comes out on its own now. Yeah. Still separated. These cakes tend to have a better time with homemade, but this will do for now. I'll probably just kind of adhere that with some of the pudding or whipped cream, or somebody gets to eat that. No big deal. All right, these need to cool completely. This one's almost done, but this one's been in the pan, so let's leave this one for about another 10 minutes or so, and then we can start assembling our cakes. All right, our cakes are cooled down now. So I'm gonna carefully transfer this bottom layer over here. I'm just going to kind of mush that down a little bit. And I'm going to take our banana pudding and smear it over the top. You want to get globs of it and place it on there to try to keep the crumb, especially since it broke on the bottom part, to keep that contained and it won't look as messy. Granted, it's going to be covered, but it's just kind of a good practice. And then just spread it evenly across. Don't need the rest of that, so I'm going to set it aside and somebody can have that as a treat. Now I'm gonna work on our bananas. These have some bruises on them. They're fine to eat. They don't look as good and they're kind of mushy, so I'm gonna cut those off. In fact, I'm gonna cut that whole section off. That looks better. And then I'm gonna slice these pretty thin and just spread them around the cake layer. The neat thing about this cake is while I'm using bananas and strawberries, you could also add blueberries on there if you want. You could kind of mix it up and do different fruits, whatever is in season, whatever you want. But this is a great cake for summer when it's so hot because it's nice and cool and light. You could even do this for a like a 4th of July themed party, and you could do, you know, your blueberries over here, and you could stripe out the strawberries to make the stripes of the flag. That would be really pretty. And you could do a Texas flag and have your one big star with the blueberries, and then just do a big bar of red with the strawberries, and have the whipped cream do the white. When I did this before, it was a big 13x9 sheet cake that I cut in half, I do believe, and then did the layers that way. I don't need that much cake right now, so I'm doing my smaller pans. So you can do it either way, depending on what your need is. Bigger would be great for a party, of course. All right, I'm gonna leave this banana piece for a snack for somebody. All right, get our last layer. Oh. That is wanting to fall apart. I'm going to leave it just like that because that is wanting to separate. I'm going to leave these out of the sink in case I need to make more whipped cream. I don't think I will, but just in case. And just like with the pudding, we're going to kind of glob it on. So there's already one right there. So that goes on the bottom, just to keep the crumbs to a minimum. To spread this around on the cake, and I'm just going to do a light layer on the sides, kind of give that little bit of a rustic look that they've been doing lately. I like the way it looks. It's real pretty. Lets a little bit of the cake come through. There we go. That looks really pretty right there. And you can do, if you don't want to put berries on or something, or if you're just doing this, you can kind of rough it up a little bit just to give a little texture, or you can go smooth. It really just depends on what look you're going for. I'm going to do that to go with the strawberries. I'm going to tuck these into the corners like this, and I'm kind of pushing these into the whipped cream a little bit just to kind of settle them in. And kind of mix up the sizes a little bit since I've got small corners here. And we're just going to sprinkle strawberries around. I don't need quite so much as I cut because the cake is smaller, but you know what? Julia Child has this chocolate cake with chocolate icing and almonds that she did around the side. I do that with the strawberries. It's kind of messy with your hands, but it's all good. I've made that cake once and it's so good. I need to make it again. But I might mix it up actually, forgive me Julia, and do pecans, because that sounds like that would be amazing. Alright, I think that's all we're gonna get on the sides. Alrighty, that looks beautiful. Now, here's the tricky part, the taste test. Is it actually better than sex? I think we're gonna have to get Mr. TBK and answer that question. Alright, I've called Mr. TBK in so that we can slice up this cake and see if it is indeed better than sex. Let's get into it. Ooh, look at that. There's extra strawberries on there.
First of all, I want you to try some.
Just as good and light as I remember. That's good with the banana pudding in there instead of vanilla like I did last time.
Oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
The moistness of it.
Yeah, but it's still nice and light. It's not heavy.
Oh. I don't need you anymore today. I am good to go with this. Wow.
It's funny that you said that because I was going to say it doesn't hold up to you. So, you know.
It fell apart, but I just had a bite of banana with it. Wow. Yeah. That is good. Thank you for making this again.
You're welcome.
It is so delicious. Trust me, this stuff is good. If you've never had this before, it's really good. The flavors blend exceptionally well. As I'm sure everybody knows, strawberry and bananas is one of those things that sounds kind of weird, but whenever you actually put them together, they taste exceptionally nice. The other funny part was, did you tell them where we got the recipe from?
I'd forgotten now.
Bunch of church ladies.
Oh, it's been a while since I made it, so.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and get out of your hair. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming and trying it. Enjoy. Well, there you have it. There is a nice, easy to put together cake that is light and great for the summer. Hopefully you will have time to enjoy it before the summer ends and fall kind of sweeps in on us. I know here in Texas it has been getting stupidly hot and we are over it. So hopefully you're doing great where you are, and we really thank you for joining us in our kitchen again today, and I can't wait to see you next time. Have a blessed day.
Can I have another slice?
They're mine!